Hello, let us continue with our discussion of ERPs. In the previous video we discussed the requirements or restrictions that sharing the ERP's common database imposes on both software companies and customer companies. In this video we will discuss how database management systems can, to a certain extent, isolate ERP modules from the database and thus alleviate these restrictions. We shall then move on to compare at a more aggregated or strategic level the ERP alternative to the option of using multiple independent specialized management information systems. The requirement in the integrated garage analogy that all mechanics are trained to use the same set of spare parts corresponds to the requirement that programs in all modules of an ERP must comply with the specific data model of the common database. We have suggested that the partial isolating capability of the database management system could somehow alleviate this restriction. This is an issue that many professionals, even those with an information technology background, sometimes find puzzling. Hopefully, the garage analogy will be helpful in illustrating it. It is indeed true that in our integrated garage, sharing a single warehouse, mechanics from all specialty shops must use the same set of spare parts. The stockroom operators cannot change this fact. They can, however, alleviate the annoyance this causes to the mechanic by isolating them from the irrelevant details of the warehouse design. Thus, each mechanic does not need to know about spare parts he or she does not use, or about specific shelves or containers. The stockroom operators can talk to each mechanic as if the warehouse contained only those parts that this mechanic uses, and furthermore they can obviate the details of their physical layout. This will not allow the mechanic to request spare parts not contemplated in the warehouse design, but it will make it much easier to access those that do exist, and will shield the mechanic from unnecessary complexities, thus diminishing the overhead costs associated with sharing a large common warehouse. Analogously, the database management system can present programs in each module with an ad hoc data view of the database, as if it only contained the data of interest for that module, and isolate these programs from the unnecessary details on the data's physical organization. This can substantially diminish the extra cost associated with requiring each ERP module to access a complex shared database, potentially encompassing thousands of tables of no interest for a given module. It will not, however, do away with the basic requirement. All modules of an ERP must still comply with the specific data model of the common database. Thus, even though this is a common mistake, a company cannot simply choose the functional modules it likes best from various ERPs and install them together, even if they all support the same database management system, the so-called best-of-breed approach. Having clarified that, let us now summarize the overall pros and cons that the ERP approach presents as compared to the traditional alternative of using multiple independent specialized management information systems. We'll highlight two major pros of the ERP approach. First, support for integrated business processes encompassing multiple functions. Because an ERP eliminates the need for copying data across separate management information systems as individual transactions move along the integrated business process. This, in turn, eliminates redundancy and thus potential inconsistencies, as all data on each individual business transaction is stored in only one place. In the individual management information systems approach, data on each individual transaction, such as an order, is repeated in the databases of several systems, thus leading to potential inconsistencies. This can result, for example, in obtaining different answers to the same question. For example, different sales figures, depending on the information system that we interrogate. Second, modularity. Customer companies can choose which modules to install within an ERP and might opt for a staged or phased approach, installing the chosen set of modules in several stages. And different modules can be implemented in different computers and managed relatively independently. We will also highlight two major cons. First, complexity. An ERP system is more complex than the sum of its modules due to the interdependencies and to the need to design and maintain a complex, all-encompassing database data model. And second, limited choice and lock-in. Customer companies cannot choose a best-of-breed set of modules from various ERPs. And once several modules of a complex ERP have been installed, it is quite hard for the customer company to migrate to an alternative ERP provider. Thus, the customer is, to a certain extent, a hostage of the ERP provider. Having summarized the overall pros and cons of the ERP approach, in the next video we will further illustrate these concepts by reviewing the life cycle of an individual business transaction in an ERP. Thank you. I will see you there.